I'm still thinking about the morality of vegetarianism and meat eating, and I've been trying to think of some analogies that will help me think through into that. And one of the things that I'm interested in at the moment is when exceptions to moral statutes come up. Because one of the things that I kind of hear people say in terms of meat eating is that, and how it relates to exploitation or perhaps even cruelty to animals, is that yes, whilst it's generally wrong to exploit animals, it'd be wrong to exploit them for sexual purposes, or it'd be wrong to exploit them for some entertainment purposes. It would be wrong to hunt them just for the sake of it, many people would say, and it would certainly be wrong to engage in things like bear baiting or cat burning or cockfighting or dog fighting. Many people would say that those things are wrong. So there does seem to be, if not a total consensus, a general consensus that the welfare of animals is a good thing. And yet we make this exception with regard to meat eating. We might not tolerate cruelty, even though cruelty is inevitable in factory farming. But of course there's exploitation in the sense that these things are treated as ends rather than means. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. So we make an exception in that case. So I'm thinking about exceptions. Under what conditions do we make exceptions to moral principles? And is there an exception which is valid? How do exceptions become valid? And in this case, how is meat eating a valid exception to the general principle of the welfare and concern for the interests of animals? And what I'm thinking of right now as an analogy is to do with murder. Because, I think I'm right in saying that we all think murder is a bad thing. And when I say we, I pretty much mean everybody. It's been pretty well established that murder is one of those human universals. There's a really nice book by, I think it's called Douglas Brown, something like that, called Human Universals, which is basically an anthropological study of a huge range of different cultures, trying to find out those aspects of human societies which we have in common. And I think it lists about 200 or 300 different human universals, traits which appear in every single society, and almost at the top of the list in all of those is prohibitions against murder. We all have this sense that killing another human being is a bad thing. But all human societies also have exceptions to that, and we are, as a human society, we also have exceptions. We don't like murder, we think it's a moral wrong, and yet there are circumstances in which we allow the killing of other humans. We allow it in situations of self-defense. If someone's attacking us, we have the right to defend ourselves. If we make an exception in terms of warfare, we allow our troops to kill other human beings. And we make an exception, certainly those societies who still have the death penalty on the statute books, we make an exception for executioners of humans who've stood trial and have been found guilty of certain offences. So we do make exceptions, and the people who commit murder under those circumstances are not subject to the same moral judgments as other situations in which humans are murdered, or in which humans are killed. So I'm just interested in some of those. And what I'm interested in right now is the warfare one, and troops being allowed to kill people in warfare, and how that is not part of the moral, it doesn't fall into a moral sanction against murder. Because there's something quite interesting about that, because I think alongside lots of other social reforms and general kind of changes in the zeitgeist, the moral zeitgeist of certainly Western democratic technological societies, the way that war is waged, and the way that the kind of exceptions that are granted to troops in warfare, that seems to have also changed. I mean, for example, if 1,000 years ago, maybe even less than that, a successful warrior, a hero you might even say, was someone who was merciless in their slaughter. They would kill every man, woman and child in the enemy's village, let's say. We know that the Bible is full of those kind of slaughters, and the people who carried those things out were lauded as heroes. They weren't morally censured for murdering people, certainly not for murdering people unnecessarily. They were regarded as heroes. the exception to the general rule of, don't kill people was massive, huge exceptions, to the point where, as I say, people would be lauded as heroes for carrying out that kind of an extermination 1,000 years ago. Even 500 years ago, and again, nearer than that, again, a warrior was not only granted an exception, but would be lauded, would be applauded, would be a hero for slaughtering at least their opposing combatants from the other side. If you met on the field of battle and you slaughtered more of your enemy than anybody else, you were the most successful warrior. So it wasn't just a question of being an exception to the general rule of don't kill people. There was a reversal of the usual rule. So you became a hero by making that reversal successfully, killing a lot of people. 70 years ago, World War II, things are slightly different, aren't they? You're a hero. The inverse is still in place, and the exception is certainly still in place. You're absolutely allowed to kill members of the opposing army, but not unnecessarily. If you kill them unnecessarily, if you herd all the Germans into a cellar and machine gun them, you're not a hero, are you, if you do that? And you certainly wouldn't want to kill members of their family unnecessarily. So there's a difference going on there. To be a hero even 70 years ago, you might have to kill people, but it would be in the pursuit of some kind of goal. It would be about the taking of a hill, rescuing another member of your platoon, freeing some civilians who were being attacked. There'll be some kind of other goal which would be needed in order for you to be a hero. Simply the slaughter of the opposition wasn't enough. So again, there's still an exception granted, but it's starting to lose that kind of inversion quality, where simply the slaughter of large numbers of the opposition is grounds for granting you hero status. And then just going back a few short years to Vietnam, to Iraq 1, to Iraq 2, to Afghanistan, of course you're still granted the right to forego the usual moral sanctions against killing, but you're under a great deal of scrutiny, and to be a hero, in a sense, you kind of have to die yourself, or come back alive, or save somebody, save a civilian. Very few people these days are granted the status of hero in warfare through an act of killing. Heroes now are those who save somebody from being killed, or who carry out some other kind of, just show up on the battlefield really, or show up home. Our newspapers celebrate every soldier who comes back alive or dead is celebrated as a hero in this country. I'm sure it's the same elsewhere, which I have no great problems with, but it's an odd change, isn't it, from how it was 1,500, even 70 years ago. So that exception, it's changing. The nature of the exception, it doesn't move towards it's wrong to kill people in battle, but I think there's still a progression there. I think there is still a progression away from the famous Conan the Barbarian speech, where it's all about chasing your enemies before you and slaughtering, listening to the lamentations of their women, as he puts it. It's a distinct moral shift from that being the mark of a hero to now the mark of a hero is coming back alive, or in a box, and not killing too many people in the pursuit of your goals, or the goals of your society. Anyway, I'll have a think about the other two, or if anybody else has got anything to add about the exception that's granted for executioners, or the exceptions that are granted in terms of self-defence. I'll be interested to hear them. I'll try and think about those myself. But it does seem to be part of the same trajectory, and I am wondering if that, how those exceptions are working in relation to animal welfare. Anyway, thanks very much.